All righty. Hello, Kyle Martin. Welcome to the Popcorn Space. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a while. You've been on the podcast before.
I have.
Not?
I'm like your first. Am I your first regular?
Okay, so the first podcast was Andy Holmes, and then the second was Mallory, and then the third was Andy Holmes and Andrew Holmes. So Andy came back in a 3-person episode.
Okay.
So someone has been on it twice, but then also we had Jacob on, and then Jacob became our sound guy. And then
does the sound guy say stuff sometimes?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's why he's got a mic.
Okay, he's got a mic over there.
Okay.
It's not just for looks, buddy.
It looks pretty cool though.
Let me ask you something. So I call people buddy a lot.
That's fine.
And I feel like sometimes it's perceived incorrectly because I'm not going to name any names, but someone we both know who I'm friends with. Sometimes one time when I was going to pick them up, I always say like I'll text like, hey, here, bud, or I'm outside, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they don't come out for a while, I'm like, hey, buddy, or something like that. And then one time he came out and he was like, can you stop doing that? Because that's really like, it hurts my feelings. Like, it feels like you're talking down to me. He didn't say hurts my feelings, but it sounds like I'm calling him little man or something. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, just bud. You're my bud. We're all buds here.
I don't take it that way. I don't really get offended it usually people have to like point something out to me that is offensive before I get offended at it. Because normally I'll just assume you mean the best or whatever. And that's kind of how I live my life. And I think it's a pretty good way to live my life because I don't go around, being offended by things. But every now and then somebody will be like, did you hear what they just said to you? And I'm like, yeah, what? And they're like, don't you think that was a little rude or blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't care. Or even if they did, they're still hanging out with me, or they're still like doing what I asked them to do, or they haven't cut me off or cut me out of their life. So I gotta imagine that they don't think too lowly of me. So.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put this up here.
That's fine,
just for safekeeping.
That's fine. They're not a bad team. They made it to the World Series
twice,
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
Well, they made it to the World Series a lot more than that.
They didn't win 2 years in a row, but you know what?
They did not.
It doesn't matter.
2 years in a row.
They still got to play more.
That is true. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Well, playing is the fun part.
But come on, I'd much rather.
Much rather
win once than go twice.
What was it in Mike Birbiglia special?
Everyone would.
He was talking about meeting his wife or whatever, and she was like, we should play some basketball. And he said, yeah, but not like a game. And she was like, why? And he's like, because I'd beat you. And she was like, no, you wouldn't. He goes, no. I know the cute thing is I'm supposed to say I'd beat you, and you'd say, no, you wouldn't. And then I let you win, and you think it's great, and you love me, but I'm just not that guy. And I just don't have it in me. And so she was like, you don't have to let me win. So we played, and I just kicked her ass.
I beat my children at things all the time. I don't let them win.
Yeah, my dad.
I've got 2 cute little adorable girls, and it would probably be the bigger thing to just kind of allow them to win sometimes. But no, they got to earn it.
Yeah.
Well, and they do beat. They're like Olivia's. There's this card game that she and I play all the time, and she's really good at it, and she beats me regularly. So.
Yeah, my dad used to shack me and my brother. He'd just, because we're like little 4-year-olds, and he'd just push us off the sign.
Yeah.
And dunk on the 4-foot tall freaking basketball goal that was made of plastic.
Yeah, I might be able to pull that off with Olivia, but not Penelope. Penelope would cry.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were about to turn that around and say she'd shack you or whatever.
No. Well, she'd try, but she weighs like nothing. So,
dude, tall people are so weird. Isn't it weird? Like, hear me out on this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever met someone who's just so genuinely tall that you're like, wow, I didn't know that people were that tall?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does take you back for a second. Yes.
It's like, it's got to be weird being tall all the time.
Right. Well, and
because most things are made for not super tall people.
Well, and then we're talking about like I know, Cody Free.
I know Cody. He's not that tall.
Okay.
He's like 2 inches taller than me.
You also have to, I don't know, but you also have to remember, like, I knew him when he was shorter, and he was still tall then. Like, I knew him when he was like a freshman in high school, and it seemed like every time I saw him, like if there was an extended period of time that I didn't see him, it just seemed like he got taller. And then like last year when he was a senior in high school, he got really tall, and then this year as a college freshman. I don't think he's gotten maybe taller, but he's just like filled out. And now I'm like, dude, like every time I see you, like there was one summer he like shot up, but like, yeah, but like there's people like that who are tall, but like I think of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are tall, but you don't like look at them and go like, holy moly, that's a
They're
huge
the ones
tall
that
guy.
throw the ball.
Yeah, they're the ones that throw the ball. But then basketball players are the ones who you look at and go like, wow, I did not know people got that tall. I have another friend, James, who I met through a college friend, and anyway, he's like that. Like when I first met him, it was just like, wow, that is a tall guy.
So most of my fears, like in life, involve physical health problems. I don't know why. Like I'm not scared of the boogeyman, but growing up, I was like my biggest fear, like still is like having a heart attack, like random like health things,
like legitimate fear.
Like I couldn't,
like things that could actually
like
happen
I couldn't watch House MD or whatever because I would freak out because in the beginning before the theme song they'd show some horrible thing go wrong. But I remember, I can't remember what grade it was, but I remember we were watching this like little small documentary about the like tallest man in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
And he had some disorder or disease, I can't remember what it was called, that he like wouldn't stop growing. And he basically did that until he died. And it freaked me out. And I was still developing in my life. So I was still getting taller. And I was like, what if I'm like that? And I started freaking out. And I saw an interview with, I think it was Andre the Giant, I think, where they were asking him about stuff. And he was like, well, I don't think I'm going to live very long. And they were like, well, don't say that. He was like, how many old giants do you know? We don't last.
And he was right. Yeah.
It's just like everything is
right.
I don't really know the science behind it. I shouldn't have got into that.
Well, no, but there's conditions that tall people,
because I guess your organs only grow to a certain size, and then if you keep growing, your organs probably couldn't support it.
Yes, I don't know. Let's see how you think. I don't know. Let's see how Yao Ming does. Yao Ming is super tall. He's like 7'2".
Yeah.
And you know, of course, he was. You know who Yao Ming is?
I've heard the name.
He's a basketball player.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
He was a basketball player for the Houston Rockets.
Yeah,
and he was really good for a while, but then like he kind of started having and that's another thing. They get injured so easily.
Yeah,
and they're like injuries that's never gonna. It's never gonna get better.
Speaking of sports, I was talking to my dad. So I've gotten back into this phase where I found my old glove, my baseball glove, like in the shed. Yep. And I got another glove for like $1 at Goodwill. And I don't even, because baseballs are expensive and I don't have a ton of them.
Baseballs?
I mean, they're not super expensive, but they're expensive for me, a college student trying to make it.
I'll buy you some baseballs.
Dude, do it.
I'll do it.
I'm actually good. If you listen to the story, I got some baseballs.
Yeah, let's go.
But some of the only baseballs I had at the time were my dad used to take me to spring training in Arizona for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And I would go when they were doing batting practice, and it's a really weird collection of people behind the batting practice
batting
field.
Yeah.
Because you've got little 8-year-olds, obviously, and then you got me, who at the time was probably like 13 or 14. So you're just in that middle where you're not cute anymore. You're just kind of creepy, like you're a creepy teenager. And then you've got like 40-year-olds, and we're all standing out there like in ready position. And it got pretty heartbreaking out there with the 40-year-olds pushing the 8-year-olds over, and me sliding under the 40-year-olds to get the ball.
Oh, anyways, wait! Y'all are in the outfield, like trying to get.
So there's like they had a So they
okay. I thought you said
they
like
were on
you were
a field. Yeah. Because at spring training they have like little practice fields.
Oh, okay.
So they're on a field that's smaller than a normal field. It's like almost like a little league size, and that's where they do their batting practice. And so they have a few people out there in the outfield, but we're behind it, actually behind the fence.
Oh yeah, okay.
And we're waiting and trying to watch for one to come over, but they're like professional baseball players, so tons are coming over.
Yeah.
And so every time one does, you have to look for it and sprint and push everybody out of your way and hope that there's not an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Or like a news reporter to talk about how awful you are.
I bet there were a lot more 13-year-olds than you maybe realized, because that seems like a lot of 13-year-olds.
Well, I also look infinitely older than I am, so I feel like I surpassed that age of innocence. No. Like I was little tiny, couldn't do anything, and then my what was it, the age of my face kicked in faster than my actual age. And so I remember like the first time I got it wasn't a car accident, I guess. It was like a fender bender. And nothing was wrong with my car or theirs. But when they called the cops, which seemed silly, but we're standing there talking to the cops, and I remember Trey was with me. I don't remember how blatantly this came out, but at one point I was like, hey, I'm 16. Like I just said it. Because I wanted them to know, because I look like I'm 24 and like not innocent at all. And I was like, hey, hey, I'm young. Please have mercy on me. It's like in The Office, there's that part where, what was it? Andy Bernard was talking to Charles Minor, and he was mad at The Office for getting these low numbers. And he was like, hey, I just want you to know I haven't been doing this as long as everybody else.
And he goes, do you really want that to be like, do you really want to tell me? Do you want that? Yeah.
He said, nope. I'm really wishing I wouldn't have said that, but I think it's important that you know. That's exactly what I felt like.
Well, I feel like I've talked about this with somebody recently. It may have been the last time I was on the podcast, but yeah, when you get there was a realization at some point when I got to be a certain age where I was like, people aren't going to like be nice to me anymore.
I know, just because you're a kid. Yeah.
Just because I'm a kid. Like even
it's a really sad thing to lose.
Yeah.
And I feel like I lost it so much earlier than everyone else.
Well, see, even up through high school, I always felt like I was, was kind of like a kid, and like I could just kind of get skirt by on being a kid, and people would be nice to me because of that. And people trust kids generally. Mm-hmm. Like they don't trust them to, be responsible enough to, drive a car necessarily or vote, but they trust them that they're not, or if they are up to no good, you're going to be able to see through it. Mm. They don't distrust them as in like fear them. Do you know what I mean? At least I don't, and I don't think most people do. But there was a point where I got to a certain age where it just sort of occurred to me, like, people are gonna sometimes automatically, and maybe unfairly, but like sometimes people are gonna automatically distrust me. People are gonna automatically even
the stigma
even
about
fear,
like human nature. And so when someone doesn't have the innocence, quote unquote, of a kid, suddenly it's just, you kind of assume the worst because you see a guy. It's just like screw that guy. I don't know that guy. Yeah. I don't know what he's got going on. He probably has bunch of horrible thoughts about stuff,
Yeah, but
we all have bad and good, but for some reason it's hard to trust a middle-aged dude stranger.
Yeah, that's true. And I got used to it, and so I kind of developed a like very friendly personality, and I would really try to maybe even be like overly friendly, like, hey, how are you doing today? Like, it's really good, that kind of thing. But then sometimes I'd feel like people. Then the other side of that is, if there's some people who assume if you're really nice that you're kind of a chump. Right. And I was like, well, geez, okay, I'm not a chump.
Gotta find some kind of middle ground.
Gotta find some middle ground. And I think I found it. But what the funny thing is that the opposite happened when I had children. Mm-hmm. When I'm with my kids, and especially when I was a new dad and had a baby, like all of a sudden, all these eyes and like smiles opened up to me.
Oh, it brings out like the best in people. Yeah,
it totally does. And it was like I would be walking through the mall or something, and I'd have the stroller, and I was kind of past the whole new dad glow maybe, and I was just tired, or maybe I just was like kind of like whatever. It's just on my day-to-day basis, and I've got my kids, maybe the stroller, and like I'm holding the hand of my older daughter, and we're just walking through, we're living our lives. But you just kind of get these like looks that are very, just inviting and warm and nice, and like,
it's like a reminder of before the world went crazy and you were just a little kid.
It's like all of a sudden I'm not a threat anymore. Yeah. Like before I was like, when I was a kid, I was a kid, and like they'd smile at me, and then I'd probably annoy some people. I'm sure I annoyed a lot of people, but like then you get to you be a teenager, and it's kind of same type of deal. It's like you a lot. It depends on the person you're interacting with, right? Some people would be kind of like automatically just gonna give you hell for something, like just sort of rib you, like I do that to teenagers a lot. Like if I meet a new teenager who I've never met before, just kind of like automatically I'm gonna kind of give you a little crap for being a teenager, and I work with teenagers all the time, so I know kind of how you are already, and blah blah blah. But it's friendly. And but then you get to be older, and it's all of a sudden like strangers are going to stretch you out. It's hard to become and I think that's why adults will say it's hard to become friends. It's hard to make new friends as an adult. And I think that's why.
Because people are scary, man. It's hard to trust people.
Well, I mean, I genuinely think most people are pretty good, but and then there's also people just kind of like get in their own thing, and there's adult things you have to deal with, and you're not genuinely as interested in making new friends as an adult. Yeah. But sometimes you find yourself in a place where it's like, okay, I need some friends.
Well, I've noticed. So I've been going to junior colleges this year to save more money, so I'll be transferring into a larger actual university next year.
Yeah.
But do you want more coffee?
No, I just want to know what that means.
Oh, okay.
So continue somewhere else?
No. So like on the back, it has instructions. You can actually make popcorn in that.
Yeah, I got that.
What does what mean?
So okay, so you can make popcorn in here.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And then
so
it says,
step aside. This is you have to read it just like this.
Oh, okay. I thought that maybe was it, but I thought I would finish the coffee and then the end of it would be at the bottom of the coffee cup. So that's why I was kind of like doing that. Okay.
You seemed really thrown off in the middle of my story.
Sorry, I just wanted to. I was waiting until I finished.
Profound, I think.
What?
I was saying something profound, I think.
Probably not.
What were we talking about? You said
I was talking about kids and how like.
I'm going to. Okay, so I said I'm going to an actual university next year.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be around human beings again.
Right.
Because my main job is I intern for this production company, but the other employees who are there are normally there at different times than I am.
And they're quite a bit older than you, right?
And they're quite a bit older, and they're not there very often. So I'm alone most of the time.
Yeah.
For the most part of my job. And then I do this, and this is kind of where I interact with human beings.
Right.
And then I've noticed like being kind of living a year like working and being on my own, and like no one at junior college looks at each other because we all like have some weird guilt about being at junior college, I think.
Yeah. Well, Adam Carolla on his podcast, he would always. When I used to listen to it a long time ago, but he would always say, junior college is just high school with ashtrays.
It feels so weird. It's like, I thought it'd be like Community. Have you ever seen Community?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be like Community, and we'd all be like, yeah, we're at junior college, but we can still be friends. Nobody talks to each other. No. Nobody looks at each other. No. And if we do, we're like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to look at you. I was trying to look at the board. Like, it's super awkward. There are people who like just won't show up for just like 2 weeks because they don't feel like it. Because it's okay because half our stuff is online anyways.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is weird.
Yeah.
It's good. It saves a ton of money, but
I took a
college
class at our local junior college one May because I was like this credit that I didn't want to mess with at the school I was going to. And
what was the credit?
Communication. Like it was a speech class. It was called communications or something. And of course I ended up not even needing that credit because I got a BFA in theater, and with that BFA they didn't require you to take speech. But
that seems interesting.
Well, and I think that the reason why is because it's like
you already have so much speech implemented into all your other classes.
Yeah, I guess so. But it was that was, even though it was a speech class and it was it wasn't like just a lecture class.
Yeah.
It still felt very much like that. Just kind of like you didn't make friends in there. There was no like bonding or anything. You just went and did your stuff and then left. And then, yeah. And I actually didn't make a very good grade in that class because and it wasn't because I didn't do the work. It wasn't.
What junior college was it at?
Lee College in Baytown. That's where I grew up.
But you went to college. Was it during high school?
I went to ACU. But it was during college. I was home.
It was like a summer.
It was a summer class.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't because I didn't do my work. It wasn't because I didn't like study very hard. It's because the guy genuinely just didn't like my speeches.
Yeah.
And I think that was pretty much the only thing we got graded on was our speeches. And I got C's on all the speeches. And so in my class, I got a C. And it was not for lack of trying or working hard. It was like, he just
didn't agree with you.
He just didn't like how I presented it. He would be like, "You're too animated. You need to like be." He wanted me to be more boring.
Yeah,
because I just was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like he's like, "You don't." He says your hand gestures are seem just like you're just doing it in the moment, like you haven't planned them. I'm like, yeah.
There's this movie.
Yeah, of course I haven't played it. Why would I prescribe my? But he showed us like this video of like this speech won this contest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the best speech, the forensics contest.
Just like super boring.
And it was so boring, and like every movement was like you could see the wheels turning in the guy's head. Now move over here.
Yeah,
and like gesture with hand, you know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you kidding me? This is awful.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, it's because you're a theater person. And I was like, yeah. So I think he thought maybe that I thought I was just gonna like skirt through it because I just bring my charm to it,
right?
And so he just was like, I'm gonna show this.
He just wasn't having it. Well, there's this movie Larry Crowne. Have you ever seen it with Tom Hanks?
I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
So it's like he's this guy.
The Larry. No, it's that. I was gonna say the Larry Crowne Affair, but that's the Thomas Crown Affair.
Yeah, it's just called Larry Crowne.
Okay, got it.
But he works at like a.
Can I have some of this popcorn?
Yes, you can. It's actually real popcorn, Kyle. Did you know that?
I did know that actually because I saw you put it in there.
But it's kettle corn. It's not popcorn. Actually.
That's fine. Well, kettle corn and popcorn are the same thing.
Yeah, but kettle corn has sugar on it.
Okay, that's fine.
And it lasts longer.
That's fine. But popcorn, I'm not going to chew into the mic because that would be bad. But that's very good. But
there's this old video on YouTube where this guy it's like a meme now, but he would sing this song, and in the middle of it he'd go like this, and then he'd come back and sing something, and he put a little caption under his head, I move away from the mic as I take breath.
Is that the one? That's the one where it's like chocolate
rain.
Chocolate rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. That's a classic, man. That's like one of the first viral videos.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
That guy's like a YouTuber now, I think.
Is he?
Yeah.
I heard him talk.
He's got a deep voice.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. But I heard him talk, and he's actually like a really smart, like intelligent, like witty, funny guy. I've heard him speak doing other things.
Interesting. YouTube is such a mix of people. You've got really, really intelligent guys, and then you've got comedians who are also, for the most part, pretty intelligent. And then you've got people who just saw the format and thought, I can be famous, and I'm going to try to copy what I've seen. And these are like, I don't want to shit on all vloggers because there's probably some good vlogs out there, but for the most part, you've got like Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Do you know about them?
I have heard a little bit. From what I gather, they are really popular, but somehow I've never heard anybody talk about them who like them.
Yeah, no,
so I don't know how they're popular.
Yeah,
everybody hates them.
Just like younger, like middle schoolers, I think is who likes them.
But apparently, like
they make these weird vlogs. You should try to get through a video of theirs. It's so hard.
The first time I ever heard of them was they were the guys who like
Jake Paul. I think was on Disney Channel.
Okay.
But he got fired.
But they were the guys who or one of those guys. I didn't know there were two people. I thought they were basically the same person.
No, they're
definitely
two separate human beings.
Jake and who, Paul?
Jake and Logan Paul.
Logan Paul. Okay. One of them. I don't know which one because generally I really thought
Logan is the older one.
I just thought there was one person really. But I think I heard the first time I heard of him, he had made some video where they like went to some forest where people in Japan like go to, or Korea.
That was the first time you heard of him?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever heard of him.
Okay, no, recently. That was that was like a year ago or something.
Yeah.
He went to the suicide forest in Japan
and he
made like a silly vlog video.
Yeah, and they like found a body and kind of made jokes about it, and people were just like, you're an awful human being, and a lot of people were like, that's pretty
weird. That's like,
yeah. Well,
if you found a human body and you're not like completely thrown off your tracks,
no,
I probably wouldn't trust you.
That would be awful, and yeah, no, but it was. He seemed like the type of person who's just like, hey, this is wild, this is crazy, let's go. And if he's never been around people who are grieving or suffering or doesn't understand that kind of thing, maybe he thought of it just as this crazy thing and didn't.
Well, that's kind of the stigma that there is on YouTube. Almost like it didn't surprise me that much. Not that it's good, but on YouTube when I was in middle school and I was a loser, there's all these videos. Go ahead. That's Casey's Kettle Corn, by the way. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram under Casey's Kettle Corn. And if you want to order some of your own, the number is 325-260-8601. Sponsor. That's a good thing to pull the mic away.
Yeah.
You just sound like you're in an echo chamber. No, but there's like the top 10 list. Like there's whole channels that they're called like top 10. or something like that.
Mhm.
And so it'll be like top 10 creepiest places on earth or scariest places on earth.
Yeah.
And that's where I found out about like the Winchester Mystery House and where I found out about the Suicide Forest and all these random other places. Like that's legitimately how I mean, I kind of knew about the catacombs from some movie had mentioned it, but I didn't really know what it was.
Like the Christian catacombs?
The catacombs under Paris with all the dead bodies.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like the catacombs, like where Christians would.
No, like under Paris, there's like whole tunnels that are just lined with skulls and dead bodies.
Oh, really?
Do you not know about that?
Well, I knew about the underground Paris because
it's crazy.
I knew about underground Paris because of Les Miserables, but I didn't know that there were skulls and stuff.
Oh, yeah, the catacombs. It's like I'm gonna screw up the history on this because I haven't read about it in so long, but it was like something like maybe the Black Plague or something. So many people were dying, and they needed to figure out what to do with all the bodies, so they started like building these tunnels literally made of human bones.
Oh wow! So it's not just people.
You can go tour it. It's like a tourist attraction. People go and they have tours of it. There's certain places they don't. There's this movie called As Above, So Below, which is actually a really good movie. It's a found footage movie. I don't know if you're into those, like the Blair Witch Project, but it's significantly better than the Blair Witch Project.
Well, I know the Blair Witch Project was like supposedly found footage, but it wasn't really. It was
none of them are really.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's just the genre.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a genre thing.
And so,
see, the other good thing about these microphone booms is that they don't squeak or anything.
Yeah.
That you got to pay for that.
Yeah,
that's not going to come in your $25 ones.
Yeah, they're great. Well, those are only like 15. That one over there.
See, and even more so.
Yeah,
if you pay $10 more, maybe it would. But
I went to San Jose recently, and because I went to go see Jordan Peterson do a lecture.
Right.
And when I was there, so I get the way that I was able to shake it out. I was only in San Jose like from the time the plane landed to the time my other plane took off to leave. I was in San Jose for 22 hours.
Right.
And so I got the cheapest flight, which meant that they were at weird times of the day. And so I get there at 9 a.m. and what was it? It wasn't the show wasn't until like 7 or 8 at night. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do all day in San Jose when I can't go anywhere. So I found out where In-N-Out was, and I walked a mile to In-N-Out. That was cool. And then I
and In-N-Out in California, is it better than the In-N-Outs here in Texas?
It's almost identical. Like,
of course it is.
They all look the same. They're built like the same way.
Of course.
And it's funny. So I kind of got this like stigma that everybody everywhere else besides Texas was like assholes. Like, I don't know if it's like my parents or whoever instilled that in me, but it's just like people kind of talk that way. It's like people in Texas are so genuine and so nice, and people outside Texas aren't. And I always kind of thought that because I'd been told that. And I know that people in Texas are genuinely or generally nice.
See, it's funny because
in my experience, at least.
That's funny because I've always kind of wondered if I've always kind of had this general expectation that people in other places are not nicer necessarily, not like more friendly, but more I don't know, like progressive in their like who they're, because I've always kind of thought of, because I grew up around a lot of guys who were maybe not like not a lot of people, but like there was always this group of people, the people that identified the most with like yeehaw Texas, like weird, the real Texans, always seemed to me the most like racist and kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Just like traditionalists, I guess.
Non-accepting necessarily of other ideas and things like that. And so while a New Yorker might kind of talk to you briskly and like get out of my way, like
I don't run into many yeehaw Texans. I mean, I lived in Mason, Texas, and so there were people who wore cowboy hats and stuff in public. Yeah, but they were never like full blown. Like I remember, like
because everybody's nuanced and nobody is really. But a stereotype is a thread that kind of holds people together. It's not, nobody really fully embraces every
for the
part
most part, at least in my experience, we hold up to the Southern hospitality thing. But
generally, yes. But I think maybe there's been a little part of me that's always felt like, and that if I hadn't been like a, middle class white kid that I wouldn't have been greeted so nicely by everyone, and for all my kind of like, I guess, for lack of a better word, progressive kind of leanings. It's not like I've gotten all tattooed up and like shaved and like, you know, worn spiky hair, and I've never like looked crazy. I've never like I've always had a pretty conservative look about me. And so people have always been really nice to me and welcoming to me. But I do know people who don't look like me who get the side eye from those same people. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm coming from. But then again, I have been guilty of also prejudging those people. Like I've been certainly guilty of like seeing maybe an older woman in her 50s or 60s who has very together hair and like wears big earrings and lots of makeup and carries like very, like has this look, and then assuming that maybe they look down on anybody who doesn't have there's a thing, and then been told and then been proven totally wrong. Right. Those people are like amazing people. Yeah. So I'm just as guilty of prejudging people.
Yeah, there's like a instinctual part of us that just kind of sizes other people up when we see them. Yeah. And there are aspects of that can be used for good, but there's also a huge part that you need to know everybody's not what they look like on the outside.
And probably that's an evolutionary like biological thing that we did to survive. Right. In the days when if you came upon somebody from another tribe or whatever, and they you
need to be able to size them up to know if they're
you didn't know if you all you knew is if they were not part of who you were, then they were a danger to you, and they potentially were going to come and take over your
the point that I was getting at from talking about people being genuine here and hearing that they weren't other places is my big experience in like places that I hadn't been to a lot was going around Austin. Like senior year, me and my friends went to Austin for spring break. We just like hung out and walked around, and people are kind of scary in Austin for the most part. I've noticed like they're not like scary like I thought something bad was going to happen, but they're like you could walk down a popular street for an hour smiling at every individual and they will not smile back at you or acknowledge you.
Certain parts of Austin, I mean, like if you were on 6th Street, 6th Street is like not
even on 6th Street, on like SoCo or
I don't know where SoCo is.
South Congress, that's like the popular street that everything's on.
Like kind of near the Capitol?
No.
By UT.
No, the Capitol's right by UT.
I know, but like they're not.
No, you're thinking of Guadalupe. SoCo is like it's its own separate thing, but that's where all the shops are and everything.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm sure you've been on it.
I know.
But anyways,
that's like the downtown area, kind of like with the downtown area.
I guess so.
It's it's like UT, Capitol.
I'll show you a map later.
Downtown Lake Austin, right?
Kyle, this is boring.
Well, I'm sorry. You didn't give me you didn't ask me to come here to talk about something specific, so I'm just going to talk about
directions to different places.
I just going to talk about what's on my head. Well, anyway, keep going.
But when I went to, and so I don't know about anything because I only went to San Jose for an afternoon,
right,
or a day,
right,
and so San Jose is a very specific place for a very small amount of time. But in my experience there, I walked to In-N-Out, and on my way there, and when I got there, everybody there was so nice to me and so genuine, and like it felt pretty normal. I mean, there was one weird experience, but that was like so at In-N-Out, most of the tables were taken. There's this little like kind of bar you can sit at, and I sit there and I'm eating, and this guy sits next to me and he's waiting for his food, and he's looking straight forward, and I was like, I'm gonna say hey to this guy. I said hi, and he keeps looking straight forward. I was like, he either didn't hear me or he's ignoring me. So I'm going to see it through, and I just keep staring at him like I'm in the energy of me saying hi, just staring at him. And obviously he sees me out of the corner of his eye, so he looks and he goes, "What?" And I said, just saying, "Hey, how are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." And he keeps going back to what he's doing. And it was like it threw me for a loop. But but other than that, everybody was super nice and super genuine there.
Yeah. I've never felt like Austin was a rude place. It depends. I guess it depends on where I was.
I don't want to say that it's rude or not. It just doesn't feel like if you want to go to some warm, happy place,
go to San Jose.
I wouldn't say go to Austin. I would say go to San Jose. I was in San Jose for 22 hours. I've been in Austin for a few weeks.
Right. What I wonder if how inviting or welcoming or warm and like friendly people are has less to do with your um general geographic area and has more to do with what's going on in the specific area that you're at. So like if you go to a college campus, let's say that you go to one of the colleges here in town and you go walk around on college campus, especially if it's a small campus like they have here, people I think will kind of be able to tell just by the way you're walking, just by the way
that you don't go there,
yeah. And so they'll maybe be more likely to be like, oh, maybe they're a potential student checking out the place. And so like give you a smile at the least, or ignore you maybe, but like, but if you were to like say hi to them, they'd be like, hey, and they'd be more likely to be okay with engaging you. But like if you go to a downtown, let's say you go to a downtown area that's like everybody there is basically at work, you know, because at my job, I stay pretty much in one camp. I stay on one campus, but you know, in some jobs, if you work downtown, you're probably stuck in an office for a lot of the time. And then if you maybe need to get out to go down the street or whatever, it's still that's still part of their work environment. And so their head is geared in a different way.
Yeah.
And the same thing if you went on a bigger college campus like UT, I feel like it would be a little bit more like that.
UT is like, it's weird because it kind of blends in with Austin. And so it's like, it's like you can be walking and you can enter the campus and not even know it.
Right.
You're it's kind of all together.
Right.
And so probably a lot of people who don't go to UT are on campus all the time.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So it's almost like,
not that
I wouldn't think people would even have an eye for it,
right?
Just because there's so many people all the
time.
But
then if you go down that, like you were saying, Guadalupe is the street that has all those businesses on it. That's right across from the campus. So like, but if you walk down that, I feel like that road is going to have a lot of like high school kids touring the campus, or just people wanting to go to the campus and like hanging out and going to the shops. And so if you walk around there, anybody around there is more like maybe be a little bit friendly. I think it depends on like I said, specifically where you are. If you're at a place where there's a lot of people who are just visiting, and when I say just visiting, I mean like if you go to a mall, even if it's a mall you go to a lot, but you don't work there, you're visiting. You know what I mean? And then the people who work there are used to running into people like that, and there's more of a mindset of like, welcome to my place, you know. And so like I don't know. It'd be an interesting like social experiment to see like what actually determines whether or not people are going to be nice to you. Because you go to same thing. I mean, New York is traditionally and kind of notoriously a place where people are rude, I guess, is what people have always said. Although I don't think people in New York are rude. I think if you're talking to real like New Yorkers, you know, real New Yorkers, they don't. There's not a lot of small talk. There's not a whole lot of like, hey, sweetie, hey, what would you like? Would you like some ice? You know, there's not like any of that. It
doesn't fit with the accent.
No, but like, but a real New Yorker might be like, hey, what do you want? Come on, let's go. Yeah, hurry up. But then if you're like, oh man, shoot, I lost my wallet. It's cool, I got it. I paid for it. You know, like that actually happened to me one time. Like I was in New York and I was like, oh shoot, I don't have enough money for this. And he's like, it's on me. Don't worry about it. Get out of here. He just wanted the line to go by faster. Yeah, he didn't.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. So he didn't.
It's like their own brand of being genuine.
Exactly. It's like I didn't find people in New York to be rude at all. I found them to be really awesome. But it's just a quicker kind of paced.
So to completely change gears.
All right.
Completely.
Okay, I'm going to let you talk and I'm going to eat some popcorn.
Okay, well, I'm about to ask you a question. So you're a theater teacher.
I am.
And I want to know what like got you into. Okay, so I'm trying to phrase this right. So I'm basically, the question is film versus theater, because I know you like movies, because we talked for hours about movies. And so I always described it as film is my first love and theater is my second. And so I'd be curious where you stand on that and what you think about the stigma between movies and theater, because the thing is movies are so much more like, I guess, generally accepted is that anybody will go. I mean, pretty much anybody. There's some people that don't like movies, and I don't like those people. But anybody will go see a movie because everyone kind of enjoys that format for the most part.
Sure.
But some people are like, I just can't stand a play. I just don't like the energy of a play, and I'm not into it. But there's also like, you've seen Birdman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like that stigma of like kind of the uptight theater people who are like, theater is the real art, and movies are just silly people playing around in front of a camera. So give me your take on that and where you stand.
So I guess growing up, I had more of the mindset of the snobby theater person, because I did theater growing up.
Yeah.
I liked movies. I liked film. But
you did have that personality. It's like theater's kind of more important.
But it was like art. Film can be art. Film can definitely be art, but theater is kind of like the ancestor to film. You know,
right? Exactly. Yeah, film is just like an infant.
Yeah, and it's like if you really appreciate film, and I think we'd separate film from movies, like
how do you mean?
Film being like an artsy kind of
film, being like what is nominated at the Oscars, and movies being like a superhero movie.
Not even necessarily. So there's a lot of movies nominated at the Oscars, but like film being more like what you would see at like an art house theater, as opposed to like you wouldn't. They don't come to Abilene, you know.
Yeah. Or like a popcorn.
Or they
movie.
might a popcorn. Yeah, or like a popcorn movie. So the film doesn't necessarily have stars in it, you know. So but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy movies. It doesn't mean, but you're enjoying it kind of in the same way that you might enjoy a roller coaster. It's, I mean, you don't get any meaning from, well, I'm not going to say that blanket, but maybe people get a meaning, but you're not going to get a lot of like you're not gonna like start asking questions about your life based on a roller coaster that you rode, you know. Maybe you do, but
you don't know the kind of roller coasters I've been on.
I don't know, like some really thought-provoking roller coasters. but like a film, and of course I'm like really quibbling with the terms here, film and movies, but I mean, because a film can still be a movie, but but film can certainly be a piece of art. But I think if you also need to respect the kind of where it came from, and kind of where, but then again, you go 100 years ago, and I think this is still the case. Excuse me. Got a popcorn kernel, kind of.
You got a kettle corn kernel.
Kettle corn kernel. Okay, so can we just say that kettle corn is just popcorn with a better outfit? I mean, is that? It's like popcorn.
I think kettle corn's good, but
it's like popcorn put on a jacket, like and a top hat. You know,
the best thing about kettle corn is that it saves longer.
Okay,
but like, and you can like pull it out whenever, and popcorn has to be prepared. But popcorn, I'm more favorable towards, simply because of the movie stigma.
Okay,
yeah, like it's such a movie thing.
All right, well,
you don't think about going to the movies and eating kettle corn, you know. You could.
I don't.
We could start that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that we were bound to any kind of, but I think
they don't sell kettle corn at the movies, and you can't sneak in. You're not supposed to sneak in anything.
Well, anyway, actually, they do sell kettle corn at the new theater over there on the.
They really do?
Yeah, I think they do. They have kettle corn there.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Anyway, so
stole my idea.
What was I talking about? So, I think anybody who does theater. And nobody, I don't think really people turn their nose up at film like maybe they did in the early days. But I mean, even in theater, it's all just kind of entertainment, and you know, and there's various levels of, you know, artistry to it, and there's various, and that's not to say that there's not artistry in something that's just frivolous. You know, there's still artistry in that. So I don't know. I don't really like to sound cliche. I don't like to put labels on things, or I don't like to like put things into boxes necessarily and say one box is good and one box is bad. I think that you know, remember having this conversation when I was in college about like what really is art, and our soap operas art is our kind of cheesy popcorn action movies, art, and I think, yeah, I mean, you can make an argument that it's art. I think, I mean, I think if you started going down that rabbit hole, eventually you might get to something that's like a porn film, and I'm like, I'm not willing to
porn
call
film art. Yeah,
yeah, like
I think there does have to be some kind of line of distinction. I'm not of the relativistic mindset, which is that one thing can be art to someone, it's not art to somebody else. It's like to an extent, but I think there is a point that you are pulling something from thin air to call something art.
Yeah. I mean, like we went and saw we went to the Science and Space Museum over spring break, and we went, and they had this this exhibit there that was Legos, and it was the first part you walked in, and it was all these different pieces of art that were recreations using Legos. It was really cool. They had like the Mona Lisa recreated with Legos, and it looked really good.
This was where? Legoland?
No, it was at the Perot Museum.
Oh, where's that?
In Dallas.
Okay, keep going.
It's a Science and Space Museum, but they had this piece, and
scientists like Legos too.
Oh yeah, well, scientists really love Legos. Actually, anytime I've ever been to any kind of like discovery kind of kids museum, the Legos is always like put in the, here you can become an engineer, and like it's always kind of put in this realm of science and like engineering and try to build a car that'll go around this loop, and you have to get the right
Legos is legitimately a great thing, because I remember it's so satisfying. It gave me like this hunger to build things. Yeah, because I'd get the stupid like huge piece ones because I was into Halo, so I'd get like the Halo spaceship or whatever. Okay, and then it's got like 1,000 pieces, and you have to follow like every little baby instruction. Takes like 3 days, and then you have this huge thing. Right, and then you don't want to play with it, so you just put it in the corner.
Exactly.
People looking.
You know what? I've had that same, and of course that's what the Lego.
When I was younger, not today.
That's practically all what the Lego movie's about. Just want to throw that. But anyway, so I wanted, but this art piece at the Lego. So the recreations of the pieces of art, like I said, they had the Mona Lisa. They had like a recreation of the Easter Island statues. They had a recreation of Whistler's Mother, American Gothic, like all these really famous paintings. Yeah. And it was kind of interesting because I'd go like, man, it's like a cool kind of recreation, but like you wouldn't necessarily call like a photocopy a piece of art, right? You wouldn't call, like, if you maybe you would, but like if you recreated something by hand, even that's like, I don't know. But these, I felt like the Lego pieces themselves were pieces of art, kind of separate from what they were trying to. But then, of course, kept going in the exhibit, and he created his own art with Legos, and it was really, really cool. And the pieces, even if he had drawn them by hand, would have been really amazing. But the fact that he did it with Legos was really cool. But what was really interesting to me was that this was probably the first exhibit involving Legos that I've been to at a museum, and Legos are all over museums, it seems like, but that was able to apply it to art instead of just kind of a like engineering feat, you know. And so I think there's also a fine line between science and art. And so like I do think lots of things can be considered art, but man, it is hard to define where that lies.
Well, what I'm finding is, and I'm still figuring out, but what I'm trying to define art as is art needs to have, I don't like that this rhymes, I wish it didn't, but art that needs to have heart. And I've tried to find the line between art and propaganda, and it's like, I think propaganda is when people think that they can use what is normally used to create art as like a magic trick almost. They're like, we can use this and we'll create this. And so like I went and saw
propaganda can exist within art.
I guess so.
Sometimes the artist,
to be true.
I think so. Sometimes the artist for, and I'm talking about, when I talk about propaganda, I'm kind of also considering I mean, you take a movie that like takes money from a a corporation in order, and then like you just sit there with a cup of Starbucks or whatever, drinking it in a particular scene, and Starbucks give you like money for your movie.
Well, there can be
so like that's kind of propaganda.
Yeah, there can be pieces of it, but as an overall kind of blanket statement to something like, have you seen Captain Marvel yet?
No.
Okay. I did, and I don't like it at all.
I've heard it's not as good as people want it to be, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I saw it and I watched it with my uncle, and it's almost like I felt so apologetic because I convinced him to go watch it with me because I really wanted it to be good, and I was kind of excited for it. Yeah. And I know that I saw like some people were talking crap about it because the political thing, because Brie Larson had made some comments on a previous movie, but I was like, people say stuff, and that was a whole different movie, and that was years ago. Like, I'm still excited for this movie, and Marvel's done pretty good to entertain me in the past. Yeah. And so I go to see the movie, and I felt so apologetic watching this with him because I was like, this is the worst Marvel movie that I've ever seen. And it's like, it was just so like incoherent, and it was like, it was the most like detached from emotion and reality story. So it's just like they're in space, there's a bunch of explosions, and then there's an alien that looks like it's a person or a character from a bad church play or something, the way that they look. And that's literally what my uncle said. He said it looks like he's from Bible Man or something. But
Price described it as a movie that was trying to be a Marvel movie, or like that was
exactly. It went through all of the motions, but it like went way too far, and it felt like every now and again you'd meet a character and you'd know nothing really significant about them, and like I don't really remember like anyone's name, and then suddenly they'd have like a moment, but it was very synthetic, and they'd like almost tear up, and it's like that you're supposed to, because you've seen so many movies that at this point you're supposed to be feeling something, and like maybe even supposed to tear up, but you're nowhere near that. You're like, who is this person and why should I care?
So how was it propaganda? Was it?
Well, because it was all about woman empowerment, and the problem with that is there are.
So what's the difference between propaganda and just wanting to have
There are movies that
statement.
There are movies that can empower women,
right?
But you need to put heart in it and create a piece of art.
Right.
Like for example, there's a whole video essay that I watched about it wasn't about Captain Marvel, but it was about what they were doing with Rey in Star Wars, which I didn't see as much because I liked Rey, but I got what they were saying, because they were saying the whole point was they came in saying Rey's going to be an icon for women and we're going to make this, but when you do that, you're so scared to make them have any vulnerabilities, and they have to be way overpowered and not make any mistakes, because who could relate to someone who makes mistakes? And so he went and looked at like Alien and stuff like that and said Alien was not trying to make some female icon, but it did, because they were genuine in their storytelling and they made a very compelling story, and Ripley was a very compelling character within that story, and like genuinely became an icon from this beautiful creation of a movie, essentially. And
is this your favorite movie, by the way?
Alien is not my favorite movie. It's an incredible movie.
Man, because you put it in like such a prominent spot in your podcast video feed.
Well, it means a lot. I'll tell you why it means a lot.
Do I need to not lean back like this?
Well, you can't really see yourself.
Well, I know, but I'm in the edge of the frame.
So so Alien means a lot to me, and I'll tell you why if you want. Over there, so where we keep our spoons is in that alien egg. Can you see it?
Oh, is that an alien egg?
Yeah, from the movie Alien. So what Alien means to me is, I think I was in first or second grade, and I was at my grandma's house, and my cousins were watching Alien like on TV. It's funny, like when I have memories of like TV being on, because TV like almost doesn't exist anymore. It was weird. I was like, yeah, a movie was on TV, and they flipped a channel and we're watching it. But I remember I walked in, and it was when the guy had the alien on his face. Spoilers for the movie Alien, which you probably already know. But the guy had the alien on his face. You've seen it, right?
It's been a long time, but yes.
But it's on his face, and he's like in a coma or whatever. And I was like, what's going on? And it was like, it's sci-fi. It's kind of cool. I'm a little kid. And they were like, yeah, this alien jumped on his face, and it's like breathing for him, and it like put him in a coma. There you go. Forgot about the headphones.
Well, no, I tried to move them, and they didn't quite. They fell off I was trying to move them so that they would just be out of my way so I could take off my hat.
But you're good. But we're watching it and I was getting into it, and then it goes to that next scene, the famous scene, which was they're sitting at the dinner table and they're having a good laugh and it's interesting, and they're on a spaceship and I'm like, this is cool.
Mhm.
And I told you my biggest fear has always been like weird medical things and having a heart attack. So this guy's eating and then he starts like choking, and I'm like, I'm already uncomfortable. And he's choking and all of a sudden his like heart starts hurting and I'm like, oh no. And they put him on the table and then an alien comes out of his chest.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
You know what's funny about that scene is when I did see Alien, I had Spaceballs had already been like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. See, I was too young. I was too young to be exposed to all that stuff.
And I was exposed to comedies before, like scary movies.
I've seen everything that makes fun of it afterwards.
Yeah.
But at that point, that was my first exposure to the chest burster scene.
Right. Well, what's funny is my parents were more likely to let me watch a comedy that may have been a little bit raunchy or something, like have like dirty jokes, than to watch a scary movie.
Yeah.
Because I would have nightmares. But just a kind of a comedy that had like off color humor.
Yeah.
I was like, I think they could kind of like, it's funny, but you're not allowed to say those things. You know, it was a little bit easier for them to deal with.
I saw the Terminator when I was like 7 years old, I think.
See, I never saw scary movies as a kid, because I think the one time my parents sort of like accidentally, I was not supposed to be watching it, but I was like behind the couch watching it. I had like huge nightmares. It was crazy. But even sometimes things that weren't supposed to be that scary would somehow scare me. Like I remember having nightmares after watching a movie about the Alamo. You know, just I was like, what if I, what if I have to go? I don't know, like I just had this like kind of like dream of the army coming to get me. You know, I don't know. So anyway.
That's really weird.
Yeah, but like comedies like Spaceballs, like even though that's not exactly a kid movie, I watched it as a kid. And I was much more exposed to.
I feel like there's so much that you wouldn't get as a kid in that movie.
Probably, but it's Mel Brooks. He's so silly, so you can still enjoy it.
So he's like Shakespeare in the way that Shakespeare is written for everybody.
Yeah.
So Shakespeare had to make stupid raunchy jokes that the poor peasants would get and laugh at. Well, but then he also had to make sophisticated jokes that the thinkers and philosophers would understand.
But even little kids get kind of like potty humor and like a joke that's really kind of like a little bit too gross for a kid, still gonna get it and they're still gonna laugh at it. Like when he pulls out his Schwartz. And they're talking about like my Schwartz is bigger than your Schwartz. Why do you have such a big Schwartz? And like kind of like having that joke. Like as a kid, I still got that, and I still thought it was funny.
Right.
And then they would hold it next to their crotch and like swing it around. I mean, it's like, would you ever put that in a kids movie? No, but like kids still can watch that and appreciate it and think it's funny, you know. So
I just realized that
you hadn't seen that.
trying to block my whole mood.
Yeah.
Well, I thought so. I have this thing. I'm not gonna get off on it, but I have this like something exactly like this, but it's like 3-dimensional in my house. I was gonna bring it, but I forgot, so I had to pull it up on something.
Well, so look, kind of.
But Alien.
Well, I kind of want to get back to the original question you had asked.
Let me finish Alien. Real quick.
Okay.
The movie Alien, what it means to me.
Okay,
it's a big deal. But so it scared me to death. I stopped watching it at that point when I saw that. Freaked out. I remember like going back to my grandma's room and like praying with my mom that an alien wouldn't get inside my chest. I was so scared. And
did it work?
Well, it never happened, so it did work.
So.
But all throughout my life, I remember being scared of it, and I have this vivid memory of being in Hastings like years later, walking through, and there was like a Blu-ray disc of Alien or something, but it had like a what is it called? A holographic.
Like a
thing on the front of it. So when you walk by, it draws your attention. It looks like the alien egg, just like this. But when you walked by, it showed the xenomorph or whatever. And so
is the xenomorph what the aliens?
That's
called?
the alien, yeah. Because like think of it like xenophobic, like scared of immigrants. So it's like immigrants, aliens,
got it.
Xenomorph.
Got it.
I'm sure that makes logical sense, right?
Probably.
Xeno must mean alien.
Maybe. I don't know. Xeno means other.
Because immigrant.
Maybe Xeno means other.
Isn't immigrant just another word for alien? Just someone who is not someone who is not indigenous?
No. I think alien is someone who is. I don't think it's like a. It's not like the same thing. It's not like a synonym.
We don't use it in the same way, but it's like
immigrant.
But we say like illegal alien.
Yeah. Right. but like
gotta be
alien means someone who
alien is just something that is foreign.
Something that's foreign, but an immigrant is someone who has an immigrant
right.
is like
an immigrant.
is
okay.
Someone
an
who
immigrant
is
is someone
alien.
who was alien and is not anymore.
Yeah, I guess that would be So the difference between an alien and an immigrant is that an alien is not necessarily staying,
right.
I guess, and an immigrant is like, I'm now moving here.
Right.
So I am an immigrant to Abilene.
Mm-hmm.
If I was alien,
so you were an alien to Abilene, and now you're not.
If I was an alien to Abilene, if I was an alien to Abilene,
you were a xenomorph to Abilene, and now you're not. Sure. But anyways, the movie scared me and kind of like just was in the back of my mind. And even when I got older, so I think it was right after, I didn't think about it all the time. It didn't freak me out, but I didn't want to watch it because I still like remembered being freaked out about it. Mm-hmm. And it was the summer after high school, which was last summer. There was that new Alien Covenant, which had come out like a year prior or something like that.
Okay.
And I saw it like it was like $1 on what was it, Voodoo or something. And I was hanging out with my friend Sterling, and I was like, "Do you want to watch this?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I could do this." So I watched it, and it's the new one, so it's got really good graphics, and so it's like, so they've got like the opposite of the chest burster. They've got this new thing that's not a xenomorph, but it's like that, and it like comes out of someone's back. Oh, it's so bad. It's a bad thing. But anyways, it's like really grotesque and freaky, and I was like, I think I could make it through the Alien movies. And so I was into collecting movies at this time, and I went to a movie store and they had the like anthology of the first 4 like on Blu-ray. So I bought it and I watched them all in like an afternoon. And I was like, these are fantastic.
Is the same director still involved with all of them?
No,
Ridley Scott? Or
Ridley Scott made the first one, and then James Cameron made Aliens.
Okay.
And then I think it was, I'm gonna mess up the guy's name because I get like,
which Aliens is sort of a classic in its own right?
Yes, because it's different. Well, because James Cameron is the Terminator guy, so he's like action. So Alien is like
more psychological.
Yeah, and it's like a horror movie essentially. It's like a psychological thriller. And then Aliens is just like an action movie, like the Terminator.
Oh, okay.
Because they have like machine guns and they go to a planet. Because in Alien, there's one alien, and in Aliens, there's a ton of them on this planet.
Right. I've
seen
seen
machine guns, and it's like a war with these people.
I've seen
like the tagline is like, "This time it's war." Or something like
I've
that.
seen both of them, but it's like I said, it's been so long, I don't remember a whole lot.
But to me, it means something. It feels like something that I've like overcome almost, and so it feels cool that I like them so much.
Good for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
No, but I'm like really into it. I'm a huge fan of Alien. So
yeah. Well, I was like, it must have such a pretty prominent place if you put it right in front of.
I also just it's a pretty poster. I like the poster.
It's a great poster, yeah.
And it goes with the space theme because popcorn is the ideas that bounce between you and I, and this is the space for that. So that's why there's a moon and astronaut.
Got it. I was wondering about the astronaut. Yeah, I noticed that.
That's Edwin Aldrin, Buzz. He does not like to be called the second man on the moon. He says, "I'm one of the first. I'm one of the first men on the moon."
He's always been
but technically he was the second man on the moon.
I've always liked Buzz Aldrin. He's always had like a chip on his shoulder.
Well, he wouldn't. I already talked about this in a previous podcast because I had Kyle McAllister and he worked for NASA. And I was like, do you know that Buzz Aldrin won't swear on the Bible that he went to the moon? Have you seen that video?
No.
So there's this video of this guy who goes up to Buzz and there's people around him because like he's famous or whatever. Yeah. And he goes, "Hey Buzz, I'm a huge fan." And he's like, "Thanks." And he's like, "Can you just swear on this Bible that you went to the moon?" And he's like, "Get out of my face." And he's like, "Just swear on the Bible." And he has a Bible in his hand.
Well, would you do that?
Like, just swear on the Bible.
Would you do that if somebody came up to you and was like, basically shout?
Because Buzz hit him in the face.
I think I have seen that video. But like, I mean, like, because he's such a like cantankerous kind of like curmudgeon-y, edgy guy, but like
I don't know anything about Buzz Aldrin.
Well, I do know.
I know Buzz Lightyear is probably named after him.
Probably, yeah. But I've known. But I think it's funny that he's sick of those kinds of people who are like, because I have heard him talk about how ridiculous that is, that people think it's fake, and how it's one of those things.
Not one inkling of you thinks it's fake.
No.
Oh, okay.
We don't have time to get into that. I want to go back to the art, like theater versus film that you first brought up. Like as a theater teacher, like, do I have anything against film? Absolutely not. Because really it's an evolution. It's an obvious evolutionary kind of step off from theater. Do I fault people for not liking theater? No, not really. I mean, I think that I think probably people who don't like theater,
because they've just seen
haven't
bad theater.
Either haven't seen good theater or they just haven't found what kind of genre style of theater they like, because I don't like all types of theater.
Yeah.
Like I love theater, and there are plays that I don't like. There are musicals I don't like.
Do you like musicals or straight plays better?
I see, that's the same as asking me like, what kind of music do I like? I don't really care. I just like good stuff.
Yeah.
Like I like musicals for one reason. I like plays for another reason. There's not any type of play that I like, because the minute I say I don't like this type of thing, somebody comes around and is like, "Here, look at this," and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. I like that."
Right.
So like,
You've been proven wrong in the past.
Absolutely. So like, I never say that I don't like country music. Growing up, I think I talked a little bit about like some of the country guys. We called them kickers. They were kind of the meanest guys in my junior high. You know, those were the guys who would like be like, like, "Hey, Kyle, you little blah blah blah," and like, knock me around.
Did they mumble like that?
Yes, they didn't talk very clearly at all. I said enunciate anyway, but they, but like the gangbangers, and like the guys who were like those guys were always pretty nice to me. Like for the most part, not always. But like those guys were pretty nice to me and cool, and
the gangbangers.
Yeah,
who that?
Like the guys who were in gangs at my middle school. Like I had
like not the country guys,
not the country guys.
Right. Okay.
Like guys who were in gangs, and like I actually knew a guy who came to school and was like showing me his bullet wound. Like he was like, he wasn't there for a week, and he was like, "I got shot.
Check this out, man."
Yeah, he got shot by a gun.
Yeah.
Like I lived in a town that was kind of very split, like had one side of town and the other, and we all went to school together, but those guys were always really nice to me, and people of I had more bullies that were white than that were black, and just like, it was like one of those, have you heard the quote, like I know, I say, like, I can't, how can I be racist? Like there's so many reasons to hate people besides their color of their skin.
Yeah. No, it's it almost seems so weird and random to me that it ended up like historically. It's almost like a weird, somebody was lazy one time and everybody just like, there's so many hateful people that they needed some reason to hate other people. And they just pointed out the most like random and obvious thing that they could, that just people are so stupid.
It really goes back to,
because
there
are white and black people that are more like each other than certain white and white people or black and black people.
So anyway, but like going back to,
it just makes no sense to me logically.
Of course. But like, of course, going back to what I was saying before. So like, I think that people who maybe don't like musicals, I know a lot of people don't like musicals, I think just haven't really, or theater, just haven't found the thing that they like about it. And it's got a different energy to it. It's really two different art forms, even though that one kind of morphed off the other one.
When did musicals start, by the way? Do you know?
Musical theaters musical theater probably grew out of opera, I would imagine, but musical theater as we know it today is a very American art form, and it started in like
I thought it was like it started in like London.
No, I mean, some musicals started in London, but like musical theater as we know it is a very American thing, and it kind of grew out of the vaudeville era, and it grew out of Broadway, and like the early days of Broadway, where they put on a show, and then eventually sometimes they'd start telling stories along with the music and dancing, but the stories were all very kind of loosely collected.
They're almost like the Marvel movies of theater.
But like the Drowsy Chaperone really makes fun of those early days where the songs and things didn't necessarily always really reflect the emotion of the story. In Toledo Surprise, at the end when she's like, "Why are we singing and dancing? I've just experienced the worst moment of my life." But and so in that way, it kind of outcropped from opera a little bit, but opera was a form of theater going way back even before that. But opera, I get the feeling, I haven't studied opera as much, but opera, I feel like, came more from the composer who would kind of like, like a musician now might create a concept album. It's like, I'm going to create this album, and then but I'm going to tie all the music together in like a story.
Yeah.
Those composers would do that. Again, I'm not as familiar with that, but like I kind of get the feeling that composers would sort of form stories, and then they would have these singers, and then they start building sets around it, and yada yada yada. And of course, music and theater have always kind of gone together, going way back. Shakespeare has songs in some of his plays, and it's always been a part of telling stories.
Well, they're both just two different ways of telling stories.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that at some point they would come together.
Yeah, but people give a hard time to musical theater sometimes, because they say, well, nobody actually breaks out into song in the middle of talking. And first of all, they haven't ever been to one of my family's gatherings.
Right, but also most things in theater or most things in film don't really happen.
Well, exactly.
Like everybody doesn't have an intellectual quip for every situation,
right?
Like in movies.
But even that, even if they were right, even if that was a valid point in the sense that like other things are more lifelike, the very idea of theater or film, or like the very idea of it being realistic is a pretty modern idea anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody really was trying to make theater seem realistic.
I mean, it's always taken a certain suspension of disbelief to be able to engage yourself.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Trying to eliminate the distance between your suspension of disbelief and reality is a new thing.
Yeah,
that trying to close that gap is a very new thing. It started in Russia with Stanislavski's group or group theater.
Well,
and then or the group theater was in America. I'm messing that up. But like it started in Russia with the Russian theater in the 1800s, and then got brought over to America by Strasberg and the Actors Studio, and that so it's a. But like before then, nobody was trying to make acting seem realistic.
Well, even in the older movies,
nobody wanted acting to be believable. Yeah,
and I mean, what's his name? James Dean was the first guy who actually started talking like a real person.
Well, it's because he came from that Actors Studio.
Yeah, well, but everybody around him would be like, "You're just like your father, and you're talking this way." And he'd be like, "You're tearing me apart." Yeah, like he's talking like a real guy.
Yeah,
around all these people that are talking like they're in a
You go back to
play.
You go back to the 1920s, like the earliest sound movies, and they're all like and those guys all came from like vaudeville, and most of those performers were they all came from this mindset of like, I think we had make it bigger and higher. And
I think we had a talk on my last podcast on the Best Picture Brothers when we were watching, I think it was the Broadway Melody or something, but we were talking about it, and I mentioned the way that they talk, and we got this argument because I think they were like, you don't know, what if people actually talk that way? And I was like, I do not believe that people ever talked that way. I cannot imagine in reality.
When I first learned the idea of the transatlantic accent, I was like, my mind was a little bit blown. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Do you know what the transatlantic? Okay, so the transatlantic accent basically is like the Atlantic Ocean separates America from Europe and specifically England.
Yeah,
and so the transatlantic accent is a fake accent that was developed for basically theater and the movies early on.
Is that the vaudeville kind of thing?
Probably used in vaudeville, I guess, but it's like
could you do
James Stewart? Yeah, I can do it a little bit. Maybe I can try. James Stewart, Katharine Hepburn.
Come on over to the window.
Yeah, James Stewart and Katharine Hepburn are probably, and Cary Grant, actually. Yeah. Cary Grant, they're like the best examples of the transatlantic accent. And the idea is that an American accent sounds too base, but we don't want it to sound like a British accent. So we're going to try to find somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic to have this accent, but it's a completely manufactured accent that has no real, like natural speakers, but that's how they would teach all their actors and performers to
right,
speak.
but there's got to be something to it because I mean, I think James Stewart was one of the most like genuine actors of his time.
Well, it doesn't mean you're a bad actor.
Well, no, I know, but it's still relatable. Like he was still a relatable guy, even though he was talking in this way that nobody.
Well, I think a lot, in a lot of theater, and I mean,
because when we think of synthetic, we think synthetic doesn't.
But think about
as much
about theater. Think about the kinds of people that theater has traditionally been about before the 20th century. Also, mainly, but like it was always about rich people. They weren't
kings and queens,
queens,
like Hamlet,
wealthy people. Even a lot of more modern plays. A lot of times they're about these wealthy people who they're not trying to identify with the common person.
Mm-hmm.
They're first of all, they're trying probably to.
They were kind of larger than life. They were huge epics.
But like even go back to Shakespeare, they're writing plays about the people who are going to give them money and support them for one thing. But second of all, it's also like showing the little people how the other half live. How these are the people we want to see the stories about. We want to see the stories about the
like Keeping Up with the Kardashians for the old age.
Yes. Talk about propaganda in art, like there was so much propaganda in Shakespeare's. Henry V was basically just like an ode to, it's basically just here, Queen Elizabeth, these are your ancestors and these are the great things that they did to get you where you are, and like celebrating her lineage. But anyway, so like I can't remember, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, so theater has, and that translating. So like, let me see if I can do it. Give me something to say.
Give you something to say.
Step aside, coffee. This is my popcorn mug. That's what I'm going to say. So Cary Grant would say it like this: Step aside, coffee. This is my.
That's transatlantic. You're trying to do right now.
Step aside, coffee. This is my popcorn mug. Yeah, like I think that's kind of it. Or like, for Jimmy Stewart. Or Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn would do it very much like this. And somebody who's an American might say, "Where are you from? Are you from England?" But then people from England would say, "That's not an English accent. They must be from America because it's somewhere in between."
Mm-hmm.
That was my attempt at it. But that was only Wonderful. But that was only what they taught.
Yeah.
They only taught that in performance schools. And that was before the group theater, and that was before like this idea of realism was even a thing. So that's just to say that the idea that we are trying to
for someone to say a movie's not good because it's not believable, or a musical's not good because it's not believable, seems irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, and it's because what it is a heightened, because it's heightened reality.
Because if you only like things that are completely realistic, then you're not going to be satisfied because
it's going to be
all that there is real life.
Because it's going to be boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be boring. You're even like, you take a movie that is somewhat realistic, it's still going to be about some point in time that's really exaggerated.
Bohemian Rhapsody, like everything in it is made up. Have you seen Bohemian Rhapsody?
I haven't. I've heard it's good.
Okay,
I want to see it.
It's okay. It's an okay movie. It's just kind of follows the Walk Hard.
Uh-huh.
So Walk Hard was essentially making fun of all these musical biopics that they're all the same. Yeah. So literally, it feels like they structured their movie after Walk Hard. Like it's just so cliche in every way.
So if I was gonna go watch a movie, should I watch Walk Hard first or Bohemian Rhapsody first?
Bohemian Rhapsody, if you want to try to enjoy it a little more. I mean, I still enjoyed it.
I've seen a lot of those biopics. I know the formula, I guess, but it doesn't break from the formula.
What ruined it for me is that I knew that everything was made up beforehand. And so I went into it, and most of it probably would have been cooler if I knew it was true, but I knew it wasn't. So there's like one part where this guy says no to him, and they're like, "You will forever be known as the guy who lost Queen." That guy doesn't exist. He's never existed. And I was like,
doesn't matter.
I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why you would put that in there?
Well, it does. It's creating dramatic stuff.
Well, there's that, and the way that the band got together wasn't the real way they got together.
But wasn't the actual band involved in the movie making? Because they were at the Oscars. Like the actual band was at the Oscars.
I don't know.
So I think they were.
Well, a huge thing is that obviously they made a big deal out of the Freddie Mercury having AIDS and everything, and when he got diagnosed.
Yeah.
But the end of it was the Live Aid concert. And Freddie Mercury didn't find out. I mean, he probably had AIDS, or at least HIV, but he didn't find out until like significantly after the Live Aid concert.
Yeah.
So that
brings up
so like all of their drama was kind of made up.
That brings up another question. How much responsibility does a filmmaker or an artist have to try and represent the factual truth?
Well, I think
and are there parts of that truth that are more important to get right than others?
I think it's almost a case-to-case basis. But for Bohemian Rhapsody, I just feel like Queen was never a movie. Like basically my final thoughts on it are Queen is not, their story wasn't cinematic enough to create because they had to lie about everything to make it kind of interesting. Queen's a great band. They got great songs.
Were they lying or were they
everything was made up? So it's just like you might as well have made a fictional movie at that point. But if it was completely fictional, no one would have seen it. And I would bet money that if it wasn't about Queen and it was just about a fictional band, that the characters were very similar and it was like the same story, this made up story that they made, that it wouldn't have been near as popular, wouldn't have been nominated for an Oscar. Maybe if they had a similar character to Freddie Mercury, because what's his name? Rami Malek. He was incredible.
Yeah.
But
like other than that, I don't know. I guess part of me is like,
it's just kind of they got their traction from the fact that it was Queen, but it wasn't Queen.
But like, can you let's
equate
this. Let's equate this with the. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but like, let's equate this to a painting. Let's equate this to a painting. Okay, let's say give me a historic figure that's not alive anymore, but we know who they look like.
Van Gogh.
Okay, Vincent Van Gogh. We know what Van Gogh looks like. If I were going to paint a picture of Van Gogh of what he looked like, am I under any sort of obligation to try and make him look like the real Van Gogh? And if not, like if I wanted to interpret what he looked like based on his character and sort of like be like, this is a recreation of what Van Gogh. I'm not saying he looked like this, but this is like my interpretation of his character and his personality.
What it seems like, I get what you're saying, but what it seems like to me is that you would be. First, let me say what I think that you're trying to say, which is that they're interpreting a certain drama and beauty that Queen had that narratively wasn't captured. So they tried to fit it in a narrative to still capture the beauty that Queen had.
That's a good way to distill what I'm trying to say.
But what I more think that happened, would it be like if you painted a picture of a guy and it was an okay picture, but it was nothing special. And it was just some random guy that no one knew, and you were like, no, but it's Van Gogh. And everyone would be like, this doesn't look anything like Van Gogh. You know, Van Gogh wasn't a woman, and this is a picture of a woman. And you'd be like, no, but that's kind of like his energy. I captured his energy and his essence. That's just you trying to get traction because you know Van Gogh has a lot of traction.
So do you think that's what happened?
You're just taking from that fan base and being like, hey, look, I have something else that's like Van Gogh.
So you think that's what happened?
I think that's what happened. Yeah. I think these guys knew how to make a halfway adequate movie, and they found a really good actor to play the main character. And it's something that would have gone under the radar had they not attached the name Queen to it. And we got to listen to a few Queen songs during it, and everyone loves Queen. So that's kind of what happened.
That's interesting because I'm pretty sure the band was involved in the filmmaking.
But it worked. It totally worked because everyone was like, Bohemian Rhapsody is the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be so good. And I was like, it was not that good.
Well, how was this? Have you seen Stars?
It wasn't bad.
Have you seen A Star is Born?
I haven't yet.
No. I've been hearing a lot about it. It's been
remade like 5 times.
I know, but that's the interesting thing about that movie is that I haven't seen it either. But like
they almost remade it with Elvis Presley right before he got like super out of shape.
Oh, really?
Like before he died.
Yeah.
And some people think that if he would have done that movie, he wouldn't have died when he did because
he might have like revived his career.
Well, yeah, because basically he thought that he could do it, and he had some bad agent or something.
Oh yeah. Well, right? The colonel or something was like the guy who basically ran his life.
Yeah, it was like screwed him over because they were telling him about this movie. He was so excited. He started getting back into shape, and he was so excited about it. I can't remember who he was going to do it with, like who the female was going to be. But then, like when he was getting back into shape, his agent said, "No, we're not doing this."
No, but like
and then that's when he like really got out of shape, and it was right before he died.
But that's one of those. That's an interesting take because that is one of those movies that it's been remade. Like you said, it's been remade so many times. And yet it's still clearly resonates with a lot of people, because that's one of the things I've heard about that movie is how great of a movie that is.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, it's an interesting idea. I'd like to watch all of them in order, because I bet it. You what?
I probably need to wrap it up. I'm going a little longer than I said I was going to.
Oh, okay, I'll wrap it up real quick. But
I did have another question, but I want you to finish your thought.
Well, I think it's cool. I think it's cool to have like a cultural phenomenon that's like kind of recreated every generation, and it's like we have our own version of this movie, and every culture has their SNL cast, and every generation has their A Star Is Born. So I think that's a kind of a cool idea.
So every time
it's like 007 essentially.
Yeah, every 20 years, 25 years or so.
We just need to remake it with our stars.
It's the new.
Also, Bradley Cooper's my favorite actor. So
is he really?
Yeah,
he's really impressive. His range is really impressive.
Oh,
he can do like funny, goofy people, and then he can also do like Chris Kyle. Like
it's incredible.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize it until I saw American Sniper, which was super late in the game when I saw it.
I've never seen it,
but I already liked him a lot, and he's freaking Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
You know that, right?
yeah.
It's freaking crazy. But he's got incredible range. What's your question?
My other question was, this is another one that I probably just don't have time to get into, but the movie that won the Oscar, the Green something.
Oh, Green Book.
Green Book.
Best Picture.
Did you see that?
I didn't see it. I didn't even watch the Oscars because I didn't see most of the movies this year because I've been broke. And so it's one of the years that I just didn't get a chance to see most of them.
Well, we probably shouldn't talk about a movie that's that controversial without having seen it. So
see, I didn't even know what the controversy was about.
I had only heard it was a really good movie. In fact, my wife and I went to a rare movie. We don't go see movies very often, but it was one of these like we thought about watching Green Book because I knew it was supposed to be a really good movie. I knew it was going to be like up for Oscars and stuff like that. And so usually back in the day when Amanda and I would go to a lot of movies, we would always go try to see like the Oscar contenders and like the stuff that was going to be.
If I had money, it'd be fun to go see all of them. Last year, I almost saw all of them.
Yeah.
And that was kind of fun to watch the Oscars and know what was going on.
Yeah. But we were like, okay, so we could go watch this movie Green Book, or like The Favorite was another one that I was kind of like interested in seeing. Or we could just go watch something really lighthearted. And so we went and watched the movie with the Australian girl who's kind of heavy. What's her name? It's about the.
Are you thinking of Rebel
Wilson? Yeah, with Rebel Wilson.
What movie was she in?
She's in this movie called Romantic Comedy, and it's called Romantic Comedy. It's called Romantic Comedy.
She's so funny, man.
She's really good, and it was a really funny movie.
I don't think I've seen her,
but it was light.
Much.
She just did this movie, and it's been kind of a big hit.
Called Romantic Comedy.
It's called Romantic Comedy. It's really funny. It's about this girl who is as a kid really likes romantic comedies, but then her mom sits her down and is like, life's not like that. Don't worry. You're never gonna have this guy who just kind of sweeps you off your feet and blah, blah, blah. So she kind of grows up with this real cynical attitude, and she lives in New York. And then she lives in New York, and she has a pretty good job, and she's got but her office is very realistic. It's very people are, kind of rude and are the good looking guys don't really pay attention to her. And she's got this assistant who's kind of this super romantic and watches movies all day long and doesn't actually get her work done. And then she has all the other people who like don't do their jobs, and she just kind of fine, I'll do it myself. And but then she gets knocked in the head or something, and then she enters this world of a romantic comedy where things are very.
It's like the same world. She's just viewing it differently.
It's the same world, but people are.
It's almost like a weird version of Shallow Hal.
Yeah. Okay. So her office is like this really sleek, cool place to work now, and the good-looking guy who ignored her before is now really into her, and now he's got a British accent, and she's like, "Why are you?" And then her assistant now, who used to be really friendly, is now the bitchy friend who has kind of they have a rivalry, and she's like, "Why are you being rude to me?" And so anyway, anyway, it's a funny movie, but that's the movie we went and saw instead of the heavy movie because because it was one of those well,
there is a place,
we just need something that's
movies for all those critics out there.
Yeah, of course. But Green Book had the controversy because it I think.
I heard the term white savior movie. That's all I heard.
Yeah. Which it's this idea that
which I could guess what that means, but I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure either. But I think it just kind of means that a black guy or a black person needs a white person there to tell their story, like the black person can't just exist on their own. The white person has to be there to help tell the story, to make it palatable to white audiences. And
yeah, I can see where that comes from, but I don't really think that's true at all.
I don't know.
I mean, there's plenty of movies that have entirely black cast that I completely enjoy.
In more recent years, yes. But like,
I think before 10 years, Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, but Do the Right Thing was a really small movie. Do the Right Thing is the exception.
Popular though.
In like over time, yeah. Like now, years later, it stood the test of time because it's a great movie and it made it. But like at the time it came out, it was not a huge movie. It was a tiny little movie. But like,
I guess the thing that when someone says white savior movie and you see something like that, it makes me think of like Django, I guess, because there's like the black guy's the star, but it's got like the white guy to like guide him through the narrative almost.
Maybe. I think that could.
You've seen Django, right?
Yeah, I've seen Django. I think you could be right there, but I think also Django was still in charge.
But I just feel like at that point
he was in charge of his own destiny.
I have no idea. I haven't seen the movie, so I'm speaking almost out of turn here. But
yeah,
I feel like so many people are just really looking for stuff to be upset about at this point. Like people were mad. People were genuinely mad that when Avengers Infinity War went on Netflix, they just in the description Netflix described Thanos as an intergalactic psychopath or sociopath, and everyone was like, "That's such a horrible description. That's not even." No one flipped out about it, and I think I was having a conversation with Trey or something, and we were talking about something else. I said, "We just get mad over that. They shouldn't." And he goes, "Well, people get mad over everything. They're mad that they called Thanos an intergalactic sociopath." And I was like, "Right, that's dumb."
Well, like you said, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't really want to talk too much about it because I haven't seen the movie, but I up until I think it really what it has to do. If you put it in the context of history, I think what they're saying is that this particular. It's a particular trope that it's kind of like the you've heard of the magical Negro, like the black man or woman who comes along and sort of like gives the white main character some kind of advice that like
the black best friend or whatever.
Like not just the black best friend, it's usually like a black servant or something. Like
I can't really think of an example of that.
The Legend of Bagger Vance.
I haven't seen that.
Like Morgan Freeman in lots of movies.
Lots of movies.
What's the other one? Probably the oh shoot, why can't I think of it? Gone with the Wind with the maid.
I haven't seen that.
You've never seen Gone with the Wind?
That's the next Best Picture Brothers that we haven't done yet. It's the last episode that we haven't finished.
Y'all got to get that back together, man.
We need to.
Just for that. Just
Spencer hates that movie though, and he so much doesn't want to watch that.
It's a really long movie, and I've
heard from most people it's good. Spencer doesn't like it.
It's a really good movie. It is, but it certainly is from a different time. I mean, that's for sure. And it's from a racist time about an even more racist time.
Yeah.
So I mean. It was groundbreaking in lots of ways, but it's not like necessarily a.
That's the hard thing I struggle with, and I felt like watching those older movies with Spencer and Trey. Sometimes it almost felt like we'd look at it and be like, "Oh my god," and then I felt like we had to be like, "Well, no, I mean this was the time, so everything has to be taken with a grain of salt." It's not like obviously like if someone murdered someone in a time that it was okay to murder someone, it's still not cool.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like just like slight things that you'll see that we wouldn't do today were the norm, and they weren't thought of as evil, and I wouldn't even think of them as evil. They're just almost kind of off-putting.
Right.
And so things like that happen a lot in older movies. So that doesn't make the movie bad or evil.
But the point I'm trying to make is that I think there was a lot of people who felt like this movie harkened back to a time whenever you had to have a white character to help make a black character's story more palatable, and we don't need that anymore. But I've read the movie, but that just sounds. But what I've read about
sounds
it,
like someone reaching. Just the way you're explaining it to me.
Well, and nobody's like out protesting the movie. They just didn't like that it won the Oscar.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, people also didn't like that. What Casey Affleck won the Oscar? Didn't he do something scary?
He apparently was it was a Me Too person.
Oh.
Like apparently he did something.
That's right. Something I never knew all of it. I just kind of been explained to it. We need to
Uh-huh.
wrap up because you gotta go.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it was good talking to you. I think we got to freestyle for a while about random stuff, and then we got into something. But
that's fun. I love your new studio, man. It's really cool.
Oh, you got to sign the table before you go.
Do I have to do it on air?
Yes, you have to do it on air.
Okay, well I'll do it on air.
Fine.
But you're gonna
no one's signed over here, so
I'll do it right smack in the middle. Oh,
do it.
This is pressure because this is like I don't have like a second chance. Can I practice once on your pad of paper?
No. Shoot. Do you have a signature?
I mean, I do, but I sign my signature so much at work that I don't really care what it looks like. But if it's gonna be permanent, I do. If you really want to, you go. I couldn't think too much about it. Now I'm thinking too much about it. There we go.
Hey, dude, there you go. That didn't look bad. That looks like an E. Is there an E in your name?
In my first name.
Kyle. Okay, that makes sense.
Kyle.
Where's the M?
Martin. So if I try to trace over it, it's gonna
don't trace over it. You're done.
It's gonna mess it up. So the M goes. This is the first line for the M, and then here's the second line for the M. But it's sort of
my T looks like a 2, so it's okay.
But the second line for the M morphs into the A. And then the R is actually after the T somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I did it really fast, and I was trying to do it without thinking.
There's some that you can't read
because I knew I would overthink it.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's gonna be okay.
I sort of wish I could do it over again.
It's that's like a metaphor.
Sand it down, and then
they change the color,
paint it over it. No, I mean, try to
so we were talking about how you're gonna officially be my regular, right?
Oh yeah, like Conan. So like you know how Conan O'Brien and some of these guys have like people who they have as their backup.
You're my Bill Burr or whatever.
Yeah, like
just come on.
Like hey, Brad Pitt had to cancel. I need somebody who can come on and just talk for a while,
right? Because I was talking about getting John Stamos on this week, which would have been fun. But
that would have been really fun.
Well, freaking. So I was talking to his publicist,
and you're right across the. He's performing right there.
He played right there,
literally right across the street.
So that's the thing that really helps is being kind of in between the Paramount and the.
Wait, when did they play?
They played on Thursday, I think.
Oh, okay,
but I was talking to him.
So we had John Stamos and the Beach Boys Thursday night, and then last night we had Chris Christopherson playing at Outlaws and Legends, and I think somebody else is playing tonight. Well, yeah, it's just like a string of really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of famous people come. Freaking Jerry Seinfeld was here like a year ago.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah.
So we actually get a lot of famous people here. This isn't a bad place to have a podcast.
No.
But I was talking to him, and
a lot of Christian bands too. If you're into Christian bands,
yeah, there you go.
So
I had Mac Powell on last.
Well, I was gonna say when you had the Christian band guy, did y'all swear on the air?
We did not swear on the air. Did you swear in a while until this podcast? But I try to be true to life. I don't swear that often in real life.
But like if you're talking to a Christian artist, you're definitely not.
But it's just like I think the first time that I stopped kind of swearing was when the mayor was on, because I'm talking to this guy and he came on and
sure, yeah.
I don't it's like
he's the mayor in Abilene.
In real life, I'm not gonna just start spitballing with him like we're old college buddies or something like that. I think me and you were kind of like buddies, so I don't really care.
Well, but you still made a bit of an effort, I think, to go, you know what? Mr. Martin's not my teacher anymore, so I'm going to start calling him Kyle, and I'm going to start saying cuss words in front of him. Because I feel weird calling you Kyle. I like calling you Martin. Do you really feel
Martin's my son's name? My future son's name.
That
actually
makes me feel really good. I think you should do that.
Well, that's before I knew you. Martin is the name. It's the brand of a guitar because my last name is Taylor, just like another brand of guitar.
Yeah.
So he'll be Martin Gibson Taylor.
Oh, that's cool.
3 guitars.
That's cool. But no, please call me Kyle. I don't like people call me Mr. Martin anyway.
I'm not gonna call you Mr. Martin.
Yeah, please don't.
If you get a doctorate, I'll think about calling you doctor.
Call you Doc. You can call me Dr. K.
Dr. K.
Yeah.
You get your own show. Dr. Phil has a podcast now.
Dude, maybe we should do I feel like now I kind of want to like borrow your studio to record my podcast.
I thought you already had a studio that you do a podcast.
We do, but it's not nearly
The Finer Art of Teaching. Check it out on iTunes and Spotify ?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's definitely on iTunes.
Does it get up? Like I do it on Libsyn. So does that push it out to? It pushes it out to a bunch of places.
I think it does.
Okay.
I know it's on iTunes because I've listened to it on iTunes.
Yeah. But we haven't put out an episode in a very long time, and I feel like we need to address that issue.
Okay. Well, hey, this is you getting some entertainment out there to all your fans.
You definitely could, like, if you wanted to rent this studio out to like somebody else who wanted to do a podcast.
Yeah. Well, the mayor was in here and he's like, we should do that. We should have like a mayor segment of the podcast. And I was like, sounds good. We'll have you. And every time like some weird issue comes up, I'd be like, what do you think, Mayor Williams? We'll just have
have them over whenever
It'll be
somebody
like-
gets charged too much for their water bill, which happened to me a couple years ago. I had a $800 water bill.
You'll just be like, it'll be like Dr. Phil. I'll be Dr. Phil, and the mayor will be talking to you about some issue that happened in town.
Can you do a Dr. Phil accent?
I don't want to, because I don't think I like Dr. Phil. I don't know. He seems pretentious.
They're all pretentious. How pretentious is
I'm
it?
pretentious, pretentious, so I shouldn't even say that.
You have to be a little bit pretentious to
to even have a podcast.
To have a podcast or to have like your own show and be able to go like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Phil." What?
Yeah, to have the confidence and assume that people want to hear what you have to say.
I saw
there has to be a certain level of insanity going on.
Oh yeah, I saw a what was it? Or I was listening to something maybe. There was somebody who's it was I think it was John Oliver on
last week
tonight. They were talking about he's
a funny guy, man.
Yeah, he's great. He's talking about people who are who give time to psychics who think that they can like talk to, or not psychics, but like mediums who say that they can talk to the dead, and they will like have someone who's like lost a loved one, and they'll say, "Oh, he wants you to know this and that and this and that," and how fake they are, and how sometimes it can actually be really hurtful and damaging to people who, like this one lady lost her daughter.
I have something to add to that in a second.
Somebody lost her daughter, had been kidnapped, and the medium was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but your daughter is dead," but she says that she's in heaven, and
it turned out that she wasn't dead.
And it turned out she was not dead. She was being captured. She had been captured, and she was actually watching. She said she actually was watching that episode and just going like, "Oh my God, please tell her that I'm okay, that I'm still alive." And then when she got out later, it was a big surprise to the mom. But like how damaging and like and harmful that can be, and it's not just frivolous.
Well, it's these people in very vulnerable spots, and people they're just so easy to take advantage of. At these times when they lose people close to them, and it feels like people are taking advantage.
But John Oliver was talking about how like these talk shows that have kind of some basis in legitimacy, like Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz, will. And I'm sure it's purely for ratings. We'll put these people on the air and give them kind of like some credibility. And he was really criticizing those talk shows that would do that.
Well, it's a weird stigma when you have an audience. Like Joe Rogan would never have an audience because he says it's like you're not real in front of an audience because you start saying things just to get a rise out of the audience.
Especially
like
if you have a political debate. If you're a comedian.
Well, yeah, but if you have like a political debate, you'll notice like so I much more enjoy Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris did a debate in front of an audience, and I'm sure it's fun to be there. But when you're watching it, it's so much better to see them in a podcast talking to each other because they're really talking. But like sometimes Sam Harris would say something, and you'd almost say it because you're trying to like burn the guy, and then the audience goes crazy and it just steps on the guy's point, even though the other guy that the audience is against is correct and he's making more sense.
Right. Well, it kind of goes like every time there's like some kind of new medium or whatever, we find ways to exploit it, and like TV, how they said the debate between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy, people in the studio and people who saw it on TV thought that Kennedy won the debate, but but people who were just listening on air and you couldn't really hear the crowd noise and stuff, thought that Nixon won the debate. It's like, people are subjective to crowd bias and like mob kind of mentality. And
it feels weird. It's like you're performing instead of actually having a conversation.
Mark Maron on his podcast, he used to do live episodes, and they were never as good because people wouldn't be as real in front of even though the podcast is going out to millions of people. If you're sitting there in front of thousands of people who are looking you right in the face, and and he stopped doing those. He didn't do them anymore.
As far as a medium, what I was talking about a million years ago and I never got into was the Winchester Mystery House, which is in San Jose that I went to see. Do you know about that? So the thing is, I wrote a poem about it because I was so sad afterwards. But it's like I'd known about it from those top 10 videos I was telling you about, the like scariest places in the world. But so you know about the Winchester repeating arms rifle, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, Sarah Winchester, who is the married to the son of the guy who started it. Everybody in her life that was significant to her died in like a 2-year period or something like that. Her young infant daughter, her husband, both of her parents, and her father-in-law, who she was super close to, they all died in a very short amount of time. And like she was very depressed and very sad, so she moved out to San Jose, which wasn't really anything at the time, and found this small farmhouse and decided to kind of make a renovation project and make it like a nice house, and that would get her mind off things. But someone convinced her to see a medium, and the medium told her, "Oh yeah, you're being haunted by all these people, and not only the people that died that were close to you, but all these people who have died at the hands of the repeating arms, like in the Civil War and stuff like that. And they're trying to get to you because you're the only remaining piece of the company or whatever." And she was like, "Well, then why am I still here?" And I don't know exactly how the conversation went down, but I'm assuming they were near the house because she said, "Well, you're still working on the house, and the ghosts don't like the sound of the hammers hitting the nails. So if you keep working on this house, they won't get to you." So for like 40 years, because she's like a billionaire or multimillionaire,
she just kept working on the house.
She just kept working on the house. So it's this huge,
I think I may have heard
intricate
of this,
house.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I'll have to look it up.
There's one part where there's like stairs that lead straight into a ceiling. There's like doors that open to a wall behind it. And it's just like, it's huge and intricate. But in the first tour, one of the first rooms they take you into is Sarah's room. And they talk about, there's a picture of her from when she was like my age or like a little bit older than me. And it was crazy because I'd known her from these YouTube videos where they talk about her as this kind of scary, crazy old woman doing all this stuff. But then I look at her, I'm like, wow, I could have like known her. Like, and they're like, yeah, Sarah died in this room right here. And you're like, holy shit. And like, they're like, yeah, she died on that bed. And you're 5 feet from it. And you're like, that's crazy. And it just made me so sad. And they were telling the story as we're going through and seeing all these things. And I don't know, it just made me so sad. I wrote a whole little poem about it because it was like, poor woman, like what she went through. She was so tortured, and this medium took advantage of her, and she was just building this all the time and like constantly on edge about it.
But now you get to go to a really cool museum.
Right. Well, I wrote something in the poem that was like, you know, people gasp at the mess you made, like an artifact under glass or something like that. I don't know, because I'm super profound and what's the word? What would we say? Pretentious. Because I'm super pretentious.
I said I wasn't going to go 2 hours, and I think we've gone 2 hours now.
Have we?
Yeah.
Have we really?
Pretty much. I looked at right before we started, I looked at my phone.
I wouldn't let you. I think we're right under 2 hours.
If so, it's barely, because I looked at my phone at 12:09, and I was like, oh, we haven't started yet, but we were about to.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was good having you on.
Yeah,
and you'll be my regular, so we can talk about other stuff.
Awesome. This is fun.
Yeah,
this is fun. And you know what? I will have you on our podcast if we ever start it back up again.
Yeah, you said freaking, because what'd you say? You drink alcohol on the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't have to drink alcohol, but you said we'll have alcohol near you. It's an audio podcast.
Well, I know that doesn't. It's fine. It's fine.
I won't drink alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, by the way.
That's fine. Good.
I don't, and seriously, nobody believes. So there's this.
I believe you. If you said it, I believe you. I have no reason not to believe you.
There's this comedian who's talking about it.
And you're not 21, so 21. You shouldn't. You can't.
I know,
drink
but a lot of people my age do. And so it's like, there was this one comedian who's talking about how he's never drank and never smoked or anything like that. And he said, yeah, I've never had fun. And he said, there's some people that it's like, you know, if you used to drink and you don't anymore, that's okay. But if you're like me and you've never drank or never smoked, the attitude is more like you're an alien and I'd rather not have you in my life. I feel like that's the attitude sometimes.
Hey, but it's fine. If you don't, you're not. The only thing is,
many reasons that I don't.
Oh, I'm sure that there are. There are places I like to go that it would seem weird not to drink, I guess. Yeah. I hang out with a lot of older people, and sometimes we'll go to like wineries, and it always feels silly when I go up to the counter and they're like, what kind of wine can I get you? I'm like, do you have like a soda in the back? And they're like, yeah, we'll go look in the back. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say because then I got to go.
Okay.
But I had this really good friend when I lived in Baytown he's a theater teacher also, but he's not anymore, but he was Mormon while we were living in the same place, and he would go out with us all the time to like bars and places, and he we were really into karaokeing, and we'd go to karaoke places, and he would go out with us all the time, but he never drank, and it was like kind of like a weird, I guess it wasn't weird for him, but when I'm not drinking and I'm around people who are drinking, it's a little odd. It's like, it's like I'm annoyed. Like I don't want to be around you.
That's the only thing that's that way, because it's
Yeah.
not like if a friend was like, I'm gonna stop doing cocaine, you'd be like, what about the wedding? You know?
That's true. What about the wedding? End it on that. I gotta go.
Yeah, eat the kettle corn as we close out. All right. Well, it was good having you on.
Yeah, man. We don't have to shake hands.
I've been doing that because I don't know how to end it. I need to have like a phrase to say at the end. I'll develop a phrase.
No, you should end it and
Like,
then shake the person's hand.
Thanks for popping.
Like shake the person's hand as they're leaving, because that makes more
thanks, buddy.
sense.
As they're leaving out the door.
Yeah,
But that's not on camera.
who cares?
All right.
Is this floor dirty?
Well, now it is because you spilled popcorn all over it.
Oh, okay.
Kettle corn. All right.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.